Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I am Eric Harley, and welcome to the first full winter broadcast of 2023. And also our Christmas show. It's our last show before our Christmas break. Gary, ho, ho, ho. Ho, 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 ho. You can't, now after that movie, my granddaughters were watching that. They came over to the house today, and they were watching that. And you can't say ho, ho, ho anymore without saying it like that Santa in that movie.
In the Christmas story.
Yeah, well, I can't anyway. I have to slow it down.
Ho, ho, ho,
ho. Yeah, then I really blew my granddaughters' minds when I told them, you know that little kid? He directed Iron Man 2. They were like, what? Yeah, true story. He actually grew up to be an adult.
I know it was on YouTube. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but he was doing a thing on the Christmas story.
Yeah.
And now he's a director.
Yeah, Peter Billingsley.
Yeah, he's a director, and he's pretty close to Vince Vaughn, and a friend of our shows, Steve Byrne, the comedian.
Yeah.
In fact, they've worked together on a bunch of different projects.
Yeah.
But, pretty, you talk about child actors. He turned out all right, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Sorry, Jon Favreau directed it. Did he direct Iron Man 3?
He did. He did some.
He also had a
he was
small
involved
role
in. He was involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he was one of the producers. Yeah, but he is a director, and he is. It's interesting. Now you watched. I never watched the sequel. The one that was on. What was it on?
It's on Max.
Max. Okay.
Yeah.
I never watched the sequel. So
it's good. Now it's understand. When you say it's not a John Wick or it's not. You have to take it for what it is. But the message is really neat.
Yeah.
Because and I can give a little bit of it because it's been out everywhere. But to set the premise of it, the old man dies. Yeah. Now you don't see it happening because Darren McGavin has been dead a few years now.
Yeah.
But he gets the thing that his father has died, and so it's up to him now to make sure everybody has a great Christmas because the father always did it. Mm. And it's really good. That's all I'll tell you. I mean, it's and his kids are great and his wife is great and it's a different mother. The original mother I can't think of her name. The original actress, she died, or she didn't die. She retired. Ooh, sorry. Don't want to give wrong information.
Yeah, be careful about that.
So, like I said, it's good. And now I'll say this though: I think I was a club DJ for so long. I still have a fascination with bars. But Flick owns a bar.
Yeah.
And, and the three of it's Flick, him, and the other guy. And, they were all doing shots together, which I never thought I'd see. And they don't talk about it much, but obviously the next morning he's laying in bed with a hangover.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But no, it's I thought it's cute. And the role that Scott Farkas plays in it is a good role, and there's a good twist of that.
I didn't know. Did you just mention that Peter Billingsley directed some of the Sullivan and Sons? He directed 6 episodes.
Yes.
And produced 33, according to IMDb.
Yeah, he was part of that. I mean, He was a part of that entire thing.
I knew he was one of the producers. I didn't know he directed a few, though. Yeah, interesting.
And Vince Vaughn was involved in that, right?
Yeah. He was the, I think, executive producer on that. Yeah. So he and Steve
does some great stuff these days, but sometimes it just gets too filthy for me. I like Steve. We've had him in the studio before.
Yeah,
and he is the most down to earth person you are ever going to meet.
Yeah.
You know, you meet him and you say there's no ego. It's just somebody who, you know, he's intense on entertaining.
Yeah.
And he told me the greatest story. That he was, you know, he did that movie on being a stand-up comic.
Right.
Or he wrote the movie.
Yeah.
He wrote the movie. He didn't act, he wrote the movie on the guy was a pretty poor stand-up comic. But he told me the greatest story, and this was at the end of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. It was like the last week. And Steve Byrne was part of doing the skits that they did on that. Mm-hmm. And you weren't, I can't remember why, but you weren't in. Mm-hmm. But I get a message from him, get an email, like that afternoon. And he said, I'm in it's before I went to sleep. He goes, I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm doing the Tonight Show, but afterwards I'm flying right out. And this is when our studios were nearer to Addison, where the Addison Comedy Club is.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, I'm flying in. I'll probably get in about 11:30 your time, whatever.
Right.
Thinking I might stop by, and I said, well, yeah, sure, stop by. That's when we actually had a big studio where you could actually have guests.
Exactly. We could fit other people in the room.
You could do. You can't in the studio, but so he stopped by, and he stayed on probably for an hour and a half. And you remember, you were there the night that everybody from Sullivan and Son came in, all the four stand-up comedians. Mm-hmm. One of the best hours I've ever done in radio.
It was so funny.
Oh, and I didn't do anything. They did.
Yeah, no, it was all them. Between Steve and Roy Wood Jr. and the we had Ahmed. He was in. I mean, the entire cast. They were so funny. Roy Wood Jr. He goes, hey, look, read my bio last. And it was like, and then he had this big line for after I read his bio. He's so funny. He should have, by the way, he should be the anchor of The Daily Show. You know, he's leaving, I think, The Daily Show. But he should have been made the anchor, in my opinion. I think he's too funny to not have a high-profile gig. But, you know, when you look at it, and we had some great conversations about that, too, with Steve, specifically on the air, about, and it wasn't the beginning of this, you know, this woke thing, but they were going through it on Sullivan and Son. Well, you know, you need this character, this kind of character, that kind of character, you know. And if you had looked around when he was talking about that, the diversity in our studio, are you kidding me? And it wasn't the full cast, by the way.
No, but Ahmed, who was, do you remember? He was like, he goes, we all traveled together to do stuff like this.
Right.
And he goes, I'm originally from, you know, his parents are from Egypt. He's Egyptian.
Right.
And he said, I'm the only one that doesn't get stopped by TSA.
He's so funny.
You remember? But when Steve was in that night, he was telling me, he said, you know, you're trying to figure out how to fit in, you know, how to get roles and stuff like that. And he said, I had to sit down with Vince Vaughn. He said, you got to produce content.
Yeah. That's it.
He goes, you want to make it in Hollywood, you produce content.
And that's
write,
the thing.
You write, you produce, you know, you direct, you can still act.
Yeah.
And Vince Vaughn has done that.
Right.
And
right.
But I think I took a great lesson out of that. You know, because a lot of talk radio, not all, but I mean a lot of talk radio that that I grew up on was just interviewing, and there are great interviews out there. But then it's like, okay, well, there's another avenue to go. You can be the content. Yeah. You can be the creator. You can be the one that does the analyzing out there. And if you do it right, you can be better than the same. For example, a lot of times in conservative talk radio in the past, you had the same, 50 guests all the time, or the same 20 guests constantly. You knew what they were going to say, and it's like you give deference to them. And one of the problems that I've always had interviewing guests is when I disagree with them, I'll call them out, even if they're a Republican and they don't want to come back anymore.
Right.
And it's like, well, what do you do? I mean, I don't want to sit there and kiss butt. We'll be able to get the president on again if we don't question him and we just go, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right.
I can't do that.
I can't do that. And it's like, okay, then you get to the point of saying, all right, I have to be the content creator. And so this was like 12 years ago when he was on.
Mm-hmm.
And that really had a big impact on me. It really did. Not that I wasn't producing content, but I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, you really want to make it. You produce the content. You become the content. And that was something that I learned. I always I haven't never told him, but if I ever see him again or talk to him again, I'll respond something on Facebook and he'll respond to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I need to make sure I tell him that, because that really had a big impact on me.
Billingsley executive producer of the first Iron Man, which, in my opinion, was the best. I always liked it. Not because it's a superhero movie, but because the idea, this exoskeletal thing created, as as something that could help, win wars, things like that. That to me was fascinating all day long. And that's the thing too. If we were talking to Vince Vaughn, the first thing I would ask him is, how impossible is it now? Because you can't. I mean, think about how long ago it was when we had those guys in from Sullivan and Son, and Steve was talking about that
12 years ago.
Now, you can't do anything. I mean, you can't make a move.
Oh, you mean in woke Hollywood? Yeah, okay.
You can't produce content without there being another purpose. No, a primary purpose, not another purpose. It isn't something where along the way you have to acknowledge. It's that you have to champion something, and I don't know. You look at the announcement this week that there could be a merger between Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount. Paramount's been losing the streaming game from day one. And to think of a massive Hollywood label like Paramount, and by the way, Warner Discovery, before it was taken over by those who control it now, I mean, it was just they shelved $200 million projects, because they knew that the feedback was going to be horrible. What was it, the Batgirl movie or Catwoman, one of the two that they made? It was done. It will never see the light of day because they realized the damage.
I will say this is something I wanted to delve into a little bit deeper on today's show, because yesterday we talked about, what we might see next year and what the future may bring. But also I thought about what happened this year. And you think about it, because of all the disasters of woke Hollywood, eventually there's going to be a demand, and you will be producing things that aren't as woke. You can't continually lose money.
Right.
You can't continue to do it year in and year out and year in and year out.
Just to make a statement.
Yeah, just to make a statement. And so, I talked about that, the one TV thing that I was in, which is totally independent, completely independent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, we've talked about, the Hollywood deal that they made, and we talk about here in Texas where they're building studios, major, big, huge studio, just a couple of miles from my house in Mansfield, Texas.
Right.
They're building to do all sorts of different things, including movies. I think it's going to start moving out of Hollywood. It already has. How many things were filmed in Canada, whatever. But I think not just the movie making, but I think the actual executive producing of movies will probably become more independent over the next decade.
Well, I hope
just
so.
because there'll be different content.
Yeah.
It'll be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be cheaper. You've got so many streaming services that are losing money.
Yeah.
And if you're making an independent film, you might be able to get that for, I don't know, half the price.
Right.
And if it's good content and you can produce the content, well, then is that where it's going? But I wanted to throw on top of the fact that one of the good things about this year is finally you have a legitimate, strong, loud opposition against the wokeness that is out there.
It's not being woke; it's the awakening. Think about it, and the response to the whole woke thing was the awakening, and it was impressive, and also relieving that people would actually respond and then take action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact that and conservatives have been talking about it for a long, long time. But until we put our foot down as a society and say, this stops, the radicals don't get to rule,
look,
nothing will change.
You and I have talked about this at times over the last 10 years. We have felt as, at times you go, are we the only ones?
Right.
Are we the only ones articulating the way that we articulate and directly being as blunt as possible and getting in no trouble because we explain it in a way where people go, oh, yeah, there's no bigotry there. In fact, what you're doing is you're pointing at the other side and saying that's where the racism is. That's where the bigotry is. We never defend. I don't have to defend the way I believe. I want to be on the attack about the evil that exists in society, the immorality that exists in society, that the majority of it, when you look at the political stage and the cultural stage, comes from the left.
Yeah.
I'll defend the way I believe any time, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that, be on the attack. That's always been our I think we don't talk about it much, but in your style and my style, it's always been be as blunt as you possibly can and promote the fact if you're going to defend yourself, you don't defend, you promote why your opinion is a better opinion, a more moral opinion than the other side.
Make the argument,
yeah. We got a great show ahead. Audio cut of the year. Woohoo! Coming up following the bottom of the hour. Got a couple of emails saying, how can you come up with one? Well, it was tough. Took me about 5 minutes. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Electrical systems are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. So when your batteries talk, it's important you listen. Know the warning signs that could indicate your electrical system needs attention to help avoid getting stuck out in the cold this winter. Keep an eye out for lights that are dim, as this is an early warning sign that your alternator is degrading and near the end of its life cycle. Lights that are brighter than normal, on the other hand, can indicate your alternator is overcharging. You should immediately get a full electrical system check if you notice either of these warning signs.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, our audio cut of the year.
All right.
And remember, the phrase of the day.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this might be this could be the phrase of the year.
Okay.
Duplicative language.
Duplicative language.
Harvard refers to President Gay's plagiarism as duplicative language.
Honoring someone else's work.
I like that one better. Recognizing
she's just
someone else's
honoring someone else's work. Yeah. Keep it going. I mean, dig your heels in. Come on, radicals. Give us your best fight. Give me a break.
Duplicative language. Yeah.
happy holidays. Have some eggnog. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. Deep voice guy drinking some eggnog there.
Yeah.
So
all right.
there I was yesterday, and I was waiting. My great nephew had a basketball game for his JV team, and there's a streaming service. You know, I think it's called NFHS, and they stream like thousands of high school sports.
Right.
And basketball at the high school my great nephew goes to has a freshman team, a JV team. He's on the JV, and then the varsity team. Well, most of all of the games you can stream, and then you can go back and watch it later on if you want. So I was waiting for that to come on, and I'm doing show prep on my phone, and my TV's on YouTube. And I was just telling you that around one of the things that that Santa got for us for Christmas, but we really believe was more for my father, was a train set and a train board and the big transformer that you put on there and the switch tracks and everything else.
The way you want to phrase that is, we believe Dad consulted with Santa.
Yes.
There you go.
To get that for his sons, which he also had a very great interest in. And
because Santa's a jerk, he doesn't know what you want.
So, but
you got to tell him.
And so Christmas stuff was on, whatever, and I have it just goes to the next video, and all of a sudden, it went to this video of this guy at this hobby train shop in Ohio. Unbelievable! This thing must be it must be worth $10 million. The detail. This thing was like 150 feet long. Think about that.
Yeah.
150 feet long by 35 feet wide.
Yeah. There
There were cities. There were baseballs, miniature baseball stadiums. Lakes. I mean, everything was in amusement parks with Ferris wheels. And the funniest thing is, because I forgot what they called the train size that they had. It wasn't the 027 like I had, which was the real big one. I think it was the second one. I don't know what you call it, the second size down. But they had the HO train, and they go, look, in the amusement park, they had the small train. It's an HO train going around. I'm like, oh, my God. But they thought of the detail that was put into this was as great as any piece of art I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
What you had to do to create this must have taken 20 years. And so I was thinking when I go back, right, looking for something to do, because my dad's 97. And, we'll go out to eat and go for a ride, but there's not a lot you can do. You can't go out and, throw the baseball to him.
Yeah,
So,
right, yeah.
And so I went, this is something that we can do. I can put that on. But he'll just love it. He'll just eat that kind of stuff up. So
yeah, sure.
As I was doing that and watching that, I'm also doing show prep, and I completely forgot about it until I started, a couple of emails and couple things on X. Hey, what's your audio cut of the year? Like, I completely forgot about it. I mean, completely. It's like, oh, man.
All of them.
Yes.
You can listen to our podcasts by going to rediradioshow.com.
Everyone you've heard this year.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I got to pick. I got to do a little bit of thinking here and pick something out that would fit. And first thing I thought of is, the border is closed, the border is secure. Well, that was a year and a half ago. I go, oh, can't use that.
Yeah.
That was actually 2021 when he first said that, Mayorkas.
Right.
Like, okay, we can't use that.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, Corinne Jean-Pierre. And I'm like, okay, but the stuff that she talks about and lies about are things that she's been doing for the last couple of years.
Right.
I'm like, because the things that we talk about have been consistent because the administration has not, you look at the border, they haven't changed anything. Haven't changed a damn thing. So they've been doing the same. Well, the rhetoric has changed a little bit. The rhetoric is now, well, we'll play the audio cut from Karine Jean-Pierre. It's not the audio cut of the day. When yesterday she goes, well, this is sort of, normal what's going on at the border.
Yeah, right.
Or expected or something like
Right.
that. Like it was nothing out of the unusual. It's like, oh, my gosh. And so we've talked about her gaslighting and everything else. And I went, nope, not good enough. And then I thought about something that you and I have talked about for the longest time, and that is identity politics. And we had just mentioned in the last break that one of the great things about this year, because you can look at our society and say it's all going downhill, but when you look at it from our perspective of talking these issues every day, and you and I remember the summer of 2020 and what happened, the year after that, that, the liberal blue wave of intimidation, you get in line, or you're a racist, it will destroy everything. And you look at the transgender, the radical transgender activist movement destroying women's lives and threatening women swimmers, that will destroy your life, just unbelievable things that you would never think you would see. And there still, to us, wasn't enough outrage, even in the conservative media, about it.
Right.
Well, finally, it hit this, it really hit this last year, where everybody now, not everybody, but now you have, and I'm not just talking in the media, you have regular people fighting back. And that's great. And then you had October 7th and the anti-Semitism that came out of that. What we call, the Nazi-like, because now they're calling Trump Hitler, and it's like, really? You want to go there with the embrace of the left of anti-Semitism? And you and I have talked about identity politics and where it would lead to. And we saw it after October 7th. And we saw it when Elise Stefanik was questioning those presidents. In fact, the one I think she'll be gone from Harvard.
I don't see how they keep up that front.
Yeah.
With all the pressure.
Yeah.
Another major donor billionaire pulling out. They're not. I just don't think you can sustain that. This is not going away as
right.
I think they thought it would.
And that's the whole point. And we even said, if in the past, why I was happy that she didn't immediately resign and they tried to sweep it under the rug. The fact that she didn't resign kept everything in the news. And I want to keep the filth of anti-Semitism, racism, Nazism from the left. I want to highlight it every single day, and that being in the news makes it easy to do so. But I did think that the audio cut of the year, because of identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not individuals, which that is mainstream in the Democratic Party and has been.
Yeah.
And that's where you judge people. And it started, I believe, that the modern identity politics movement started against conservative blacks. It's interesting that the racism in the identity politics actually was focused on blacks who happen to have a conservative viewpoint. Yeah. And you and I have talked about the fact that to the left, all blacks must think alike. And if you don't, or we saw this in 2020, if you're black and decide to become a police officer, you're not black.
Right. Yep.
I mean, the blatant racism coming out of the identity politics movement has now, and naturally, this is where it was going to lead, to anti-Semitism, and a fascist and Nazi mindset at what was viewed as the most elite colleges, not only in the United States, but probably the world. And that was blown to smithereens.
Yep.
And it all started, this is our audio cut of the day, it all started because of this.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
Yes
speech
or no?
becomes if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes.
Wow. And she lost her job because of that, but it brought to the forefront just how insanely radical these people are, how anti-Semitic they are. And we've seen it since, the pro-terrorism movement in the United States. We've seen it in the polls of young people. We've seen it from the protest screaming, we are Hamas, we are Hamas. This is what identity politics has led to. And it hasn't been confronted until, and I think it's going to be confronted from now on, till that happened on October 7th. And then the, resulting response from the squad first. And then you really found out how identity politics, all they did, and I'm not saying that all Democrats abide by the anti-Semitism or the Nazi mindset of not being able to answer, is talking about the genocide of Jews wrong. Not all Democrats believe that, but the identity politics, which is mainstream of the Democratic Party, has led us right to that kind of filth and that kind of hatred that we see now that is really exclusively on the left.
The smile on her face as her defiance she believes is getting her the win is so insulting. It's just insulting. There's no other way to describe it. She was defiant, and then all of a sudden, a few days later, well, what I meant to say was, we would never, in the video that she had to release. And then ultimately, they knew. Penn knew we're not going to be able to overcome this. There is no way to get over this because this video is viral. And the thing about it, we've been saying for years, it's as if they don't even know what exists on the internet. Well, in this case, it was, did you know you were being recorded? And did you know it's a video camera in front of you? Your smile, your smirk, your defiance as you proudly promote your radical position? Our society doesn't tolerate that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, some duplicative language. I'm sorry, but that was Harvard refers to President Gay's plagiarism as duplicative language.
Yeah.
I like what you called it.
Yeah.
Honoring somebody's work.
She was just honoring someone else's work.
Jeez. Just amazing.
I mean, they'll just hold the line till the very end, won't they?
Yep. We'll get to more on when will the Supreme Court hear the Colorado case. That will be fascinating to see on that one.
Yeah, there was some more breakdown of that, and it was, essentially, I think the observation really of an acknowledgement that really no one on the left can even defend it, that decision.
No, you really can't. The only thing you can do is, what was it? Just dumb things like somebody in The View said something like, well, the law needs to stop Trump. It's like, that doesn't even make sense.
That's their wish.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to, it's the angry mob with their torches, going up to the mountain to, take out Frankenstein, it's anything and everything. They don't care about the law.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
It's our Christmas show.
You know what I realized on the way in?
What? We're sober?
I am? You mean this is how my mind works? And I don't drink? Whoa. So,
what do you think?
Nat King Cole,
Yes.
the Christmas song, came on the radio.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And look, we issued, go back and listen, I think it was, days ago on one of the podcasts, my concern with Mel Torme, the writer of the song, for kids from 1 to 92, so newborns don't count, I guess. And, I'm always thinking of your dad, John McNamara, someone says 92. And my dad is almost 91, and God willing, he'll be with us past 92. And that's going to concern me when that song comes on. So we rewrote it from day 1 to 122. But then I realized the appeal, another appeal of the song. And why? Because it's just been, it's my favorite secular Christmas song. And I realized why it's been around basically in my life for so long. Not just that it was being played. The guitar solo. Yes, there's a guitar solo in it. Was the first guitar solo that I learned, which didn't take too long. It's not very difficult. My cousin and I were at his house. And it came on, I don't know if they had it on cassette or whatever. It wasn't on the radio. Years ago, I was a kid. And it came on, and then we hit rewind to learn that song. Because first there's a little piano run,
right.
Solo if you want, and then guitar. And we both just while we were listening to it, or someone else, actually, the adults was playing it, and we just decided that we were going to play along with it when that guitar part came on. I was like, okay, there's a guitar part. And I just naturally was drawn to it. And I thought, because it just hit me. On the way in, I was like, I remember being with my cousin Keith, hearing, and the adults were playing that, and we were like, hey, can we rewind that? Just the one part. And it's a very simple solo. And I was like, wow. That was a memory that was tucked away that I had,
No, it's
I
an
don't know
awesome memory.
since,
I like that.
I don't know since then. I've thought about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That night,
Mhm.
we thought about it, but, but then, you move on. And I was listening, and it was in the car, so I was listening, and it was like, wow, wait a minute. That would have been the first guitar solo that I learned.
That's excellent. That's a great
Yeah.
story. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
It's a great song.
well, to me, Nat King Cole's voice is,
perfect.
the resonance in his voice.
Yeah.
It's one of those signature voices that, it's just perfect to me. And that song, every Christmas morning, my kids will tell you, every Christmas morning. I mean, back in the day, I had the CD. Now streaming with the Bluetooth speaker, but that's the first thing. I don't cook Christmas dinner. I won't this year anyway. But when we wake up, when I go start making coffee in the morning, Christmas morning, that's the first song that plays. So Nat King Cole, basically his entire Christmas song, his entire Christmas album, and then Elvis, and then, whatever anybody else wants to listen to. But that's the tradition. But that song, that had not risen to, for whatever reason, all of these years, it had not occurred to me. I had not thought of that moment when my cousin and I were just sitting over in the corner, with our acoustic guitars.
It's interesting when you just bring up music, because looking back at this year, and it's something that I always think of. It's like, are there any new bands that I learned of this year that I love?
Yeah.
And there are.
Yeah?
2 bands. The Bluegrass Band out of Branson, Missouri, that I just absolutely love. They're just such excellent musicians. The Petersons, a family band.
Yeah.
And when I first saw them, I went,
Yeah.
what is this? What is this? They're like the Waltons with Donny Osmond and the mother from the Partridge Family playing the big bass. That was my first prejudicial reaction.
Right. I love that.
And it was, and what happened was I was listening to that cover band that I discovered a little over a year ago, the Lexington Lab Band, and they actually had in the this goes back a few years before he died, J.D. Crowe, the great bluegrass player.
Yeah.
And they've never had
right.
had an actual artist in playing with them. That's the only time they've done that. And that was on it. It just, the algorithm led to the next song, and it was Take Me Home Country Roads, and I went, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then then the next one that came on was their version of, it's mind-boggling, was of Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen.
Yeah.
You're like, a bluegrass band can't do it. You've seen the novelty songs, like the bluegrass AC/DC, and it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
But this version of Bohemian Rhapsody is mind-blowing. I mean, the vocals and everything else and how they do it.
Wow.
And then they went into The Scientist from Coldplay. And they can do songs that I hate. And I end up loving them.
Make it great.
I don't know why I hate, maybe it's because of the Seinfeld episode, but I hate Desperado from the Eagles.
Oh man, I love that
See,
song.
I cannot now.
It's probably the Seinfeld effect though.
I think it's the Seinfeld effect, because remember, that was that the Maestro? Is that the Maestro song?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Or was someone remember they were it was like he would sit there and that was his song. And,
right, yeah.
And Elaine started talking.
Which really, I mean, yeah.
And he would tell her, she started talking, goes, shut up. It's like, my song is on.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why, and they do Desperate. I'm like, what a great song that is. And and a couple of the band, the one cover band, and then the Petersons, they do their own material. But it doesn't matter. They're sort of like, to me, go back to Three Dog Night.
Yeah.
Three Dog Night, I don't think ever wrote any song.
Right.
Every single song was somebody else's song. Didn't matter. They owned everything that they did. Who did, wait a minute. Hoyt Axton did, I think, Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog. He's the one that...
He wrote it, yeah.
He wrote that song.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. That blew my mind. I only found that out in like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I love the appearance that he had on WKRP in Cincinnati
Right.
when he was like Jennifer's old boyfriend.
Right. Yeah.
and he really didn't want to become her boyfriend again, or he knew her. And
Right.
she thought he came to be the boyfriend. He just was looking for a record contract.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't want her? You want a record contract? Okay. And the other one was that band from Dallas that I saw in San Antonio in October.
Yeah. Right.
One of the best bands I've ever seen live, ever,
Mm-hmm.
called Motorcade out of Dallas. They
Yeah.
only play a couple times a year, but their albums, and they're harder. I mean, they're not bluegrass. They're rock. They're sort of, I don't know. They're Motorcade. I mean, you can hear influences from the 80s. You can hear influences that just them. But and so anytime that I have like new bands that I learn about that I really love in 1 year, and that's happened to me the last 10 years. As I'm in like two bands. It's like, it's been a great year. It's been a great year. Been a great year. Been a great year. Because you really don't. I mean, a lot of music, I know, and I've talked about this, music, so much of music that came from when I was young has become nostalgia to me that brings back sweet memories. And it's not where you're listening to the music that I really love because of the melodies and the technical aspect of it, which is, more hard stuff or prog rock, whatever. A lot of these are just pop songs that just bring back those sweet memories of growing up. It's almost like a movie of your life because it takes you right back to that moment. So that's why it's been a good year.
I remember years ago when I first discovered Rival Sons. I mean,
yeah, good band.
If Janis Joplin and Robert Plant had a child, it would probably be Jay, the singer from Rival Sons. It would be, because it's just, and all four of them, they've had a couple of bass player changes, but each bass player that they have had, these aren't just bass players standing in the background, holding the line with a drummer. And I can say that as a bass player. You're not just, helping to carry. They are, they're not, it's not a walking bass. It's a running bass. And the guitarist, the drummer, all of them. And Jay, just unreal as a vocalist. And everything they have done, every new album, just became better and better and better. And really, Jay Buchanan's probably one of those where it's like, okay, you don't see him anywhere. I mean, the Rival Sons are highly underrated. They opened for Black Sabbath on their final world tour for a good portion of that tour. I don't know that they necessarily fit that. They don't fit that genre, but it's just amazing that it's a three-piece band. Jay doesn't play an instrument, or he may, but he doesn't play it on stage. And it's just amazing to watch them work and hear him sing. I mean, he can sing anything. They did this acoustic version of one of the ballads by Olivia Newton-John. It's like, whoa. It was crazy. And then this year I discovered Jared James Nichols. This guy has way too much energy for one person. He's a guitarist, blues guitarist.
Uh-huh.
Way too much hair for one person. And he has an incredible style because of the way he plays. It reminds me of the Jeff Beck approach. He doesn't play like Jeff Beck because it's really, it's ramped up blues. But he doesn't use a pick. And it's unbelievable how he pulls off some of the songs and solos without a pick as a guy who's only used a pick, And it's just because it goes beyond what they call chicken picking, and that's using your, basically you're using 3 or 4 fingers on your picking hand, to get, and Zach Wilde does that. A lot of guitarists will do that, But, I mean, it goes beyond that. He's using his thumb and everything else, and it's this unique sound that comes out of that guitar. And then his vocals. I mean, his vocals are just, the range is wild. And it's probably, and the thing is that with that blues approach, I could see him doing a duet with today's country, any country artist out there, and it being a huge, huge song. Now, he's blues to the core, but I could see that happening. He's gotten a lot of attention, especially this year. But it's just, watching an artist on the rise is always exciting to me. Watching, even if they're not getting the national recognition.
I was thinking when you said somebody doing a different genre of music, it's when I heard I think it was last year, the punk grunge band from Canada, Hugh Dillon, the lead singer, who's the actor. He's in executive producer of Mayor of Kingstown, I guess it is.
Right, bald guy.
The bald guy, yeah.
Was the bald guy from that.
The sheriff in Yellowstone, whatever.
Yeah.
But he was in a band in the mid-'80s. In the mid-'80s.
Was he on Rival, on the, not Rival Sons, but Sons of Anarchy?
No, I don't believe he was. He was on that CBS member cop show, Flashpoint, that ran about back like in the early 2000s.
He was on Yellowstone.
He was on Yellowstone, yes. Sheriff on Yellowstone. Yeah. And they did a version of SOS from ABBA. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
It's really punk.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. It's like
I can see that.
I always do that when women friends will go, hey, let's listen to some ABBA. You listen to ABBA, and I'll put that on. They go, what the hell is this?
I know. When I want to crank up metal in my truck, it has to be when I'm running errands during the week and my wife isn't sitting shotgun with me,
Yeah, most of my music is not for the majority of women that I know that I really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, coming up at the top of the hour, the best Christmas gift I ever got.
All right.
The guillotine story. So I'm getting, where's the guillotine story? It's like, what do you think? This is on demand? Oh, yeah, you're
and
right.
For those who haven't heard it, here's something just to keep in mind, just a bit of a teaser. Only 4 people were injured. Which is pretty amazing.
And some ketchup was used.
Hollywood.
We've got some strange audio cuts coming up from yesterday. I mean, it was bizarro world. It was the gaslighting before Christmas from the White House.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have 2 options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Merry Christmas, and it's time for our gaslighting before Christmas.
It's the tradition of gaslighting.
Yes, gaslighting before Christmas.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here at the border, the migration flow, increased migration flow, certainly it ebbs and flows. And we're at a time of the year where we're seeing more at the border. And it's not unusual. This is
It's not unusual.
Look,
Oh, my God.
it's, everything's fine.
Oh, my God. It's the worst it's ever been. So, and the funny thing is, I saw that after Bill Maluzhin was talking about Eagle Pass, saying, I have never seen it this bad ever, and every single reporter that I've talked to that's here says the exact same thing. And then she's out there a couple hours later. Well, what we're seeing at the border is not unusual.
It's fine.
What the-
fine.
And
Everything's fine.
Gaslighting, just so you know, for people, it's when somebody lies and they know they're lying. Everybody listening or watching knows that they're lying, and the person lying knows that everybody who is watching or there knows that they're lying, and they still lie anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. Good morning. How's everybody? Merry Christmas. You
Merry
ready?
Christmas.
I have a Christmas present for everybody.
Okay.
So, and I'm saying it's we,
Yeah.
but I've got it over here on my computer.
Oh,
so
right.
I
Yeah.
it's
You play
actually
the audio.
We, yeah. I have the button for the
You're
audio.
you're Captain Audio of Audioville.
That's it.
No, Mayor Audio
But
of Audioville.
the president did an interview with Conan O'Brien on his podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, another hard-hitting interview.
Yeah.
And so here's a discussion on electric vehicles.
All right.
I may play this more than once.
Okay.
Because you and I, you would come walking in when I was playing it over and over again.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
pre-show meeting.
Yeah.
I couldn't get enough of it. All right. Here we go.
All right.
But by the way, the new Corvette is coming out electric, 0 to 60, 2.9 seconds.
You gonna drive that one?
I'm going to give it a shot. But by the way, the new Corvette is coming out electric, 0 to 60, 2.9 seconds.
You gonna drive that one?
I'm going to give it a shot. But by the way, the new Corvette is coming out electric, 0 to 60, 2.9 seconds.
You gonna drive that one?
I'm going to give it a shot.
Hey. My cringe alert goes to the max
I know.
when he says in a whispering tone, "Hey, by the way," those words right there, I'm going, "Oh, no. Whatever it is, don't say it. Stop talking." Hey, by the way, I'm not wearing socks.
Just bizarre. And you know, I just realized I'd mentioned this earlier about, you know, people that, you know, and you know, Conan O'Brien knows that, I can get an interview with the president as long as I don't ask any tough questions. As long as I kiss his posterior, then I can do it. And that's what, you know, and it's been done on the right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we talked
Yeah.
about it before. I mean, it's
Yeah.
when I've done guests in the past, Republican guests, and you and I have, and we've always challenged everybody, and they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
They really do want, to go on do an interview, which is you agree with everyone and you really don't challenge them. And
Right.
if you do, a lot of these guests get upset. But I would say to myself, and I know Conan O'Brien's more entertainment, but I would feel like I'm being manipulated and used because they only want me to put a positive spin on something, and I won't do that unless there's a positive spin that I can actually make that's truthful.
Here's what I thought when I saw that clip, and it was making the rounds yesterday, and I thought of the idea of Conan sitting down with this particular president as a sitting president. And I thought, you're in Conan's position, right? Because, frankly, his podcast is better than his late night show.
It is,
And
except for this.
well,
interview.
but are you looking at it going, there's going to be so much attention on this, and it's going to be inspiration for comedy for a long, long time, because it is laughable. It's clearly, from the Biden standpoint, from their position, it's a way to get out there. But
doesn't help.
It's not going, well, no, it's not going to help them at all.
Yeah,
In fact, it makes it work. Hey,
right.
By the way, it's not going to work. And this is the problem, that they have. But if I'm a comedian, I'm thinking, Biden wants to be on. Okay. Now, I didn't listen to the entire podcast. I don't know how long it is. Probably till Joe fell asleep. But I will, over the break, see, I don't know that I can sit through the whole thing. If it's 10 minutes, I can't promise that I'll be able to sit through the whole thing.
Well, it's fluff, so there's no reason to.
Well,
it's not like there's challenging questions.
What I'm curious about is Conan has been a lot better in his comedic approach on his podcast than he was on TV. And because on TV, you've got to clean it up. You're not the only one controlling that. So he's had some very funny moments. The interview part, I'm not wondering about. I'm wondering about how much liberty he took during that to be funny, to try and be funny, and how it went. So I'm curious about that. And I still don't know if I can watch it. That curiosity may not be enough.
Interesting, though, as he was mentioning electric vehicles, you saw the thing. Was it, hang on one second here. Yeah. Maine is forced to delay the vote on EV mandate amid widespread power outages. A top Maine state environmental agency has delayed a highly anticipated vote to approve a sweeping electric vehicle mandate amid a storm caused by widespread power outages. The Maine Board of Environmental Protection announced that it had indefinitely postponed the meeting, which was slated for yesterday afternoon, until further notice following the storm. Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills, who has pursued an aggressive green energy agenda, declared a state of emergency this week, an action that closed state government offices. Governor Janet Mills declared a state of civil emergency for 14 Maine counties following a significant wind and rainstorm that has left hundreds of thousands of people without power, and that has caused significant flooding and infrastructure damage, including to town and state roadways. They went into the fact, though, that the reason that they're canceling the indefinitely the highly anticipated vote is because there was such a lack of power. Somebody went, if we go all electric vehicles and the power goes down like this, the power could be down for weeks. People can't drive.
Yeah.
When Frizola happened, even when it was when the freeze was going on, 2 gas stations were open around me because they had their own generator power.
Right. We actually were able to stay on the air because we had a generator.
Yeah, diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's why they're backing off right now. And it's like, well, you're idiots. You didn't figure this out beforehand. Well, you had to. This is the thing. Obvious. It's almost like, let's jump off the cliff.
Yeah,
we're all going to jump off the cliff, and then somebody jumps off the cliff and dies. We've canceled everybody jumping off the cliff.
Yeah.
We couldn't
cliff
figure
jumping canceled for today.
Right.
Yeah.
We're idiots. We couldn't figure out that gravity would kill us until somebody actually got killed.
Well, it's I don't get it. There's a couple of YouTubers, off grid. Well, this one couple that is off grid has generators. Now, I've never seen them use the generators. At least they didn't record it. They didn't put it in a video. To power the home, they used it for a couple of other things. I think their RV or something. And they were like, well, we don't really like using the gas power generator. And it's like, hold on a second. You do have a choice. But if we go down this mandate road as a nation, we won't have the choice. It's going to be, blackouts are going to be a regular thing. And then they're going to turn to you saying, why are you using so much power? How dare you?
In Maine, the state proposal, though, had faced considerable bipartisan opposition from state lawmakers led by Republicans, but also from Representative Jared Golden, a House Democrat. Golden noted this week that a strong storm would render electric vehicles useless, given their need for reliable electricity generation and supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Idiots. Absolute idiot. I don't know what else to say. Unless they are completely ignorant. It's either they're complete idiots or they have no idea how electricity works.
How a grid works.
How a grid works. They have no idea. They're completely ignorant. They have no scientific background, no electrical engineering background at all. And they hear something, yep, let's know it's out. Oh, wait a minute, there's a storm. No electricity. Well, maybe we shouldn't be going for all electric vehicles. I'm sorry, but I have to do that. Because it's so idiotic, and that's why I use the gravity cliff thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the convenience-generated ignorance to a certain extent. You flip the switch on. That's how it works.
Well, on second thought, if Democrats believe that a man can be a woman,
then power can come from anywhere and will always be there?
No, maybe they don't believe in gravity. That if they say gravity doesn't exist, if they defy science when it comes to sex, why can't you defy science when it comes to gravity? Well, yeah, we know gravity's there, but we say it's not there. We don't identify as gravity-believing people, so gravity doesn't affect us.
Some of them do sound like they're floating around.
They're floating on something.
Yeah. So maybe they just quit subscribing.
All right.
To gravity.
Exactly. We're not going to identify as gravity people.
I'm turning my gravity off.
Right. We don't identify as a gravity state.
That's right. Hey, look. When you get to be a certain age, you understand gravity on all levels. All levels. Man, is my face literally dropping? Man.
The gravity
Why
of
is
the
it so
gravity
hard
situation.
to stand up from a chair? Going in any upward motion. It's a stepladder.
I believe in gravity because when I saw that meme, be very careful about sitting on the floor to wrap presents because then you have to get up.
No, I said it the other day. I was doing my Christmas lights a few weeks ago. It was like, at the end of it, I was like, I could sleep right here on the lawn. I'm already on the ground. I'm already almost laying down. The neighbors might have a question or two, but I don't technically have to get up.
I did something on the floor the other day. It's like I start getting up. You got to sort of roll over.
Yeah.
Yeah, roll over.
Call somebody.
It's almost, and I'm on my knees and my two hands, and it's like, okay, now I need to push myself up.
It's like Brian Regan, one of his best bits from I Walked on the Moon. I was feeling sick, and so I had to call 911 for myself. How do you do that? Hey, I'm really sick. Can you come and get me? I'll just be here laying on the floor, and that would be basically it for me. I just hopefully have my phone with me. Listen, guys, I can't get up. Just send somebody to help me up.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. The best Christmas gift I ever received. Coming up following the top of the hour, also audio from, you see Kirby yesterday when they started questioning him about, giving migrants, illegal immigrants who then become migrants, which are, the legalization temporarily in the country. And the one woman that got, she doesn't have to report to authorities until 2031.
Yeah.
And he was pounded on that. Questions Kirby yesterday. Well, you'd have to ask the DHS. Well, we're talking in hypotheticals. Like, you're not talking in hypotheticals. This is actually happening.
Yep.
And it's like, well, then you have to talk to DHS. You notice how, could you imagine if a president of a company, when there's major scandals going on, simply went up to the podium or the spokesperson and said, we can't answer anything. You're going to have to go to that department that won't answer the question and isn't available to you.
Right. Exactly. What's interesting is that it used to be that in that room, it was only the liberal media looking for not answers, but talking points. We talked about that once. Mm-hmm. But Americans are looking for answers on a number of things: immigration, inflation, and they're getting this kind of response from this administration.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Merry Christmas. Our Christmas show. We are out of here after today's show. And we're back the night of January 2nd, morning January 3rd.
Yep.
So there I was.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I'm going to guess I was around 8 years old. That's
right.
Probably where I was. And it was Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And so Dad took all the kids to SS Kresge to get presents for each other. That was what we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get a present for your, brothers and sisters.
Right.
So I really don't remember much about what I was looking for, for my brothers and sister, or my brother and my sisters. I can't remember that. All I remember is my brother within like 30 seconds. It was so quick. Had already come back and paid for his gift, and it was in a bag, and he just went, my older brother said, I got you the greatest gift ever.
I suspect he had been plotting.
I don't know. I think he just saw it and went, that's it.
Okay.
I don't think there was any plotting because it was a significant distance from our home, a couple of miles, and odds are he probably wasn't in the store. It was something I think it was something that he also wanted. So it was like if I got it, he also got it.
Oh, but couldn't take the blame for it.
Yes. And so he was really great at keeping the secret. I wanted to know what it was. Come on, you can tell me what it was. No. I just got to see your face Christmas morning. Got to see your face when you open this up. So he didn't tell me.
Right.
So there we are, and I don't know what time we would go down, probably 5 a.m. We'd be down checking the Christmas tree, maybe 6 a.m., but between 5 and 6. And immediately went, to my sisters were down there. We all hit the Christmas tree, and I immediately went to the gift he gave me. Man, I ripped that thing open, and it was a model plastic French guillotine.
Mm.
And you can see it. They still, if you go, if you put it in Google, it will come up. I don't know if it's the exact make that I had. And it had a working blade. I mean, not a great working blade. It was a plastic blade that would come down, a little string attached to it, and it would come down. Sometimes you'd have to help push it down. But then there was not kidding you, a Ken-like doll that you would lay on it with a detachable head and a basket.
Just for the record,
Yes.
all Ken dolls technically had detachable heads. You just had to work a little harder at it.
Well,
I'm not saying it was right to do. I'm just pointing out a technicality.
so immediately, everybody, including my sisters, right up to our bedroom.
Yeah.
Something told us that our parents would not approve of it.
Yeah, and your siblings are going, oh, man, we're getting up early to see Gary get in trouble.
No, they wanted my sisters were as interested in playing that or taking that blade and pushing it down as much as we were. And then when
I'm kind of wanting to do it right now.
Then when it got a little boring and the ketchup got involved in it.
Yeah, you really got to ramp it up
to make it more realistic.
Hollywood production.
And so there we are, and we're just, into this game, into this big time. Well, apparently an hour or so had gone by, and my parents got up, and they knew they could hear us. And they're like, why are all the presents wrapped under the tree?
Mm.
So, of course, quietly they came up the stairs and saw us all huddled around with this plastic guillotine, totally enthralled with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was not happy at all. My mother, you take that, you put it back in the box, you clean it up, you put it back in the box, and we're keeping it, and tomorrow we're returning it.
You'll cut your eye out with that thing.
You'll cut your head off. You'll cut your head off. And so we were furious. Come on, why? But we sort of knew. We knew. See, our parents were into banning. Oh, I'm sorry. They were into age-appropriate toys for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not view that as age-appropriate. Mm-hmm. They were not, just in case any Democrats are listening, this was not an overall ban that adults or maybe even older teenagers shouldn't be able to buy the guillotine.
Uh-huh.
It was not age-appropriate for an 8-year-old. We know that Democrats have trouble with that age-appropriate, they simply call an entire ban, which is a lie, but we need to just point that out.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to bring it in the next day, and I got a Vietnam Air Sikorsky attack helicopter instead.
Well, at least it was weapons.
Yes,
it was a weapon of some sort. That was good. That was, yeah. I would have, Okay, so after that, was there any plotting to say, look, man, by the way, it explains everything else from that point on in your life of wanting to be independent. I'm going to go get my own guillotine. Nobody's going to tell me I can't.
I'm moving out of this house as soon as I can. How dare my parents not let me have a guillotine?
I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a bigger bicycle. I'm going to get a guillotine. You say it quieter. A guillotine, probably.
And that anger I still let out at my 97-year-old dad today. Somebody's going to believe that. They're going to go, oh, I can't believe you said that. It's because I'm kidding.
I have my own guillotine.
No, I don't remember. I think, because it's sort of like in A Christmas Story when Gene Shepard says, kids move on very quickly to something else. We moved on to whatever else we got.
Well, that's the thing about, multiple gifts, which really was, the tradition. I mean, you're going to get something from, Santa, something from mom and dad, something from a sibling, something from your grandparents, whatever. So you got multiple gifts, and then and this is what I found out as a parent, but didn't really learn my lesson on it many dollars later. Even the biggest gift, which is the cool gift, the big gift, the really cool gift, they're over it. They'll come back to it later. They're over it. It's just one of those days. I don't think I got my BB gun at Christmas. I can't remember whether I did or not. But in San Antonio, our lawns were back to back with no alley in between, just a chain link fence separating. So we had BB gun wars, and your backyard was your territory, and you were looking to defend your land. I never thought, by the way, because I'm not like Putin, of a land grab, jumping into their backyard. Okay, I shot you, now your backyard's my backyard. I never thought that way. I was just defending my land, And I almost did get my eyes shot out. So at first, we didn't have any structure at all in that backyard. That was problematic because it was a huge yard, and I was a sitting duck, or more appropriately, a running duck, because I had no place to hide. And you couldn't lay on your belly, like the little plastic army man, that's laying on his belly and pointing his rifle. You couldn't lay, because you can't shoot. You got to shoot over the fence. So you had to stand up. I was always on the move. I mean, to my opponents or enemies, I probably was like one of those weird, games that you would play at Chuck E. Cheese where I'm just running back and forth and you got to hit me, But one day during one of the BB gun wars, now one of my neighbor friends got a pellet gun. A lot more power. A lot more. That one hurt. But Billy, who was directly behind me, had the classic BB gun. He shoots me. I feel it hit my forehead. Immediately I scream, "I'm hit!" Now, I don't lay down. I don't flinch. I'm too curious to see the damage. So I lay my BB gun down. I run inside because I got to go to the mirror like right now. This is pretty cool. I have an injury. And I'm looking in the mirror, and the BB gun is still embedded in my forehead, or the BB itself is still embedded in my forehead. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to take this out. This looks cool. I earned this. And then I was like, oh, yeah, my mom will see it. I guess I got to take it. It wasn't a real wound. I guess I must have had a fat forehead because it just, boom, embedded right there in the skin and stuck there. I'm like, man.
I think that my parents colluded with all the other parents on our street not to allow anybody to have a BB gun because nobody had a BB gun. And I was upset when I got to be probably 10 or 11 years old, and I went to day camp, and they had, you could shoot BB guns, and I won. I was the best BB gun marksman, and
Right.
and they wouldn't get it, so we made slingshots, and used crab apples.
That's fun. And that's cool.
we did that. But
Now, to be clear, in Texas, it's required.
What?
All your children have a gun.
Have a gun. Well,
starting with BB guns.
Well, but the interesting thing is, I believe that by the time I wanted a BB gun, which would have been 10 or 11 years of age, because I was in Cub Scouts at 10, then Boy Scouts at 11, that I had already shot my father's pistols, his real pistols.
Yeah, I'd already shot a rifle by the time I was about that age.
Yeah, and so it was like, well,
I was 6 or 7 in San Antonio.
I'm shooting dad's gun. I'm shooting dad's guns. Well, why can't I have a BB gun? And the answer was simple, because when you shoot a real gun, you're under the supervision of your father. Well, but then I'll do that with my BB gun. She goes, no, you won't. It's like, yeah, right. And she would have been right.
Yeah, no, she's
but
right.
I keep thinking of that the one time where they were looking. They did the talk show on WKRP, and they couldn't find any good guests. And the one guest came on who they thought was a good child psychologist, and he said, and he was just a nutcase, but he said, but he made a great point. He said, by adult standards, all children are insane. And it's like,
no, they are. If 4 grown men were out there in their backyards in San Antonio, Texas, with BB guns shooting at each other, and then one of them runs in all of a sudden, puts his gun down, runs in all of a sudden because he's got to see the cool effect of the BB hitting his fat forehead, you'd go, they need help.
When they were building a foundation of a house, I told this story. And they're building basements. So the basement, there's cinder blocks all over the place. Like piled up.
Right.
We decided to have a war against the other street with rocks, and we were throwing rocks at each other, and they weren't doing construction for some reason on that day. We actually lifted the cement blocks and made little forts out of them, but the rocks that were all around, we were throwing at each other.
Right.
And the girls of the neighborhood joined up, and they were basically the nurses in the hospital. We're getting hit in the head, bleeding, and we were nuts. We were absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And today, if that happened, there'd be an outcry because we were doing stereotypical gender roles where the boys were the warriors and the women were basically the medical care for the men.
Right. Yeah.
See, that's how That's how times have changed. Back then, it was like, what are you people insane? You're going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Today, it would be, wait a minute, hold it, stereotypical gender roles.
My sister wouldn't have played well with you guys because one time on a school bus, no joke, I saw her grab another girl's hair by the hair, grab that little girl because apparently the little girl had hit her, or not little, it was same age. The girl had hit her. My sister grabs. I didn't even know what was going on. I just look up. All of a sudden, my sister's got a handful of hair for this little girl and just throws her down the row of the bus. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's my bodyguard right there. Don't mess with me.
You know what the greatest moment for me is in A Christmas Story with the BB gun is when he's loading it, where Peter Billingsley, with the what's his name, Ralphie,
yeah,
is loading, and Darren McGavin's up there like making. He's trying to help him, like he's reliving
like,
back being a 9-year-old. To me, because that was the memory. He's living his memories through his son doing it at that moment.
Yeah.
To me, that was the most awesome part of that
it was
movie.
so great.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, we talked yesterday about, next year and what's going to happen in the future. And one of the things that we stated is we're in a time now in the history of this country where and if you've been a long-time listener, we've been talking about this for a significant period of time, especially post-COVID, that we finally reached the time, as we were going to in history, and COVID accelerated it, where the hypothetical of what politicians say they're going to do, you've got the Democrats and Republicans, and for the most part, on most issues, especially on spending, the Democrats have won. They've won the narrative, but now reality is sitting in front of us, and reality says everything that they said would happen didn't happen. And we say it's a great opportunity for Republicans to tell people and educate people, because we do have, economically speaking, legally speaking, we don't have a very smart population.
Right.
Roughly, I would say, I'd guesstimate anywhere between 40 and 50% of people really are completely and totally ignorant on the news. They have no idea about science. They have no idea about economics. And they have no idea about the Constitution of the United States. The polls show that.
Yeah.
And that's that is the one problem that you have. But reality is hitting, and it's going to hit them in the pocketbook as inflation has. And so I believe the population will be learning that way. People are going to suffer, but the fact is there is light at the end of the tunnel, because reality will not let us continue down the path that we've gone down.
It just won't. And, I mentioned the convenience-inspired ignorance, generated ignorance, from this convenient life that we have had, because you don't understand how things work, whether it's, electric grids, whether it's the government and how it was set up and why things are the way they are. Well, when things start to fall apart, you get curious pretty quickly, and you learn.
You're listening to a very special holiday edition of Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Merry Christmas, everyone. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want. So as we talk about, the new year coming up and the past year that we've had, look, we can pound on all the negative things. But there are actually things we look at and say, okay, here's a reason to look out there and say that, we have hope. First off, we live in the United States of America. And I know for myself, when it comes to free speech, and when it comes to what I believe I can do as an individual citizen, that hasn't changed.
Right.
I can still be as loud as I want.
Yeah.
And being in this business for a long time, and at times working for liberal management and liberal companies. You and I both worked for Disney at one point, and they basically left you alone. The fact that conservative talk can make money is what keeps it alive.
Right.
And it's marketable. There are people that wish to hear it. But when you look, again, I know there's a negative to when we say, all right, one of the good things is we're coming to an end of spending like crazy because you can't stop the inflation that comes along with it. And we've learned that now. And people have learned. Think about everything that we've learned over the last couple of years. We've learned that spending does have a negative effect. I don't get any response anymore. None. Whenever we would say, even a year and a half ago, we would get emails saying, you guys are making too much of the debt. We're supposed to have debt. The debt's okay. It's nobody says that anymore. Why? Because it directly affected them, and it affected everybody. And why did the inflation happen? Reckless government spending. Easy money. And so we learn that. And now we see where the debt is, Now we see what the deficit's going to be. Now we see what the interest on the debt is and how it's going to eat into the budget and how we will soon be in that financial circular death spiral. And people are like, whoa, and then you feel it in your own life. Because as we know now, 62% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, and the money has run out.
And credit card debt at an all-time high, collectively well over $1 trillion now.
And so we have to now. People are going to be hurt in this, in this transformation that we're going to see. People are going to be hurt because that's the only way that government can put it under control is they eventually have to cut. Yeah, they have to cut because and the other thing is, for example, what COVID brought because of the lockdowns. It showed a lot of people the difference between people that are more conservative and people that are more liberal. Mm-hmm. To the point where you see the effect that it's having on these blue states. The top 3 states for people moving out, California, Illinois, New York. You see the deficits now that they're running. I mean, we were talking about this with the whole reparations thing. Well, what a joke, because California's deficit's going to keep going up, and these people are delusional. Here now, California has a $68 billion shortfall. And finally, and the situation in San Francisco, we talked about that, where they're talking about trillions of dollars in reparations, and they had to cut the office that they were going to spend $2 million on, just the office for reparations. They said, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you can talk, and they have been successful in talking delusions to people and hypotheticals. Well, you can't do that anymore. You see that reality is hitting all over the place. Reality's hitting on the border.
Yeah.
Because now New York feels it. Chicago feels it. Los Angeles feels it. So many cities now are feeling, what people that on the border have actually felt, and they don't like it. And in New York and in Chicago, they're going to have to make cuts. And all of a sudden, you're going to have Democrats saying, why are you taking away these things from me and giving them to people that didn't come to this country through the legal process that we have set up? And why did the Biden administration do this? On electric vehicles, we see it. People can't, the combination of electric vehicles that overall has raised the cost of all automobiles. And people are like, whoa. And now that's falling apart. The dream that you can run the grid on solar and wind. We're finding out now, we did this study the other day, that people in blue states that are more rapidly advancing to inconsistent forms of energy and deciding to go back that, hey, you know what the future is? Go back 100 years. And they're realizing it doesn't work, and their electricity prices are higher than other places. You've also got these states that thought we can tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. We're never going to have any problem, just tax the rich. And so they set up these progressive tax systems, one that we even have here in the United States. But if you look at California, for example, or New York, the top 1%, if the top 1% is paying 50% of the taxes and the top 0.1% is paying 33% of the taxes, well, if you have a couple of thousand people move, all of a sudden you've got a budget crisis, as you're seeing in California and other places that are doing this.
Right.
And so reality is hitting. You look at, as we talked about the anti-Semitism. It's terrible that October 7th happened, but what resulted in the United States, where now we know the filthy anti-Semitism and Nazi mindset that exists in the highest level of our educational systems here in the United States. Whoa. What a shock that is to people. It wasn't a shock to us. The only thing that might have been a shock is how blunt they were in not wanting to denounce genocide against Jews.
By the way, that's something else with these liberal university campuses over the years that's really, I think, for mainstream America, it's been one of those things that was kind of in the abstract. In other words, conservatives would say, look at the mindset of the people that run these campuses and what they're teaching here at these schools, and mainstream would be, well, okay, because they don't see it. They don't see a demonstration, which is listening to our audio cut of the year. Why that and what Stefanik did on that day, that exchange, what that did to expose things to people like, whoa. That's not a liberal viewpoint. That is a radical extremist viewpoint that was being still to some extent being promoted with a great deal of pride. And people were seeing it play out going, how did this? And this would be people that don't, it's not our audience. It's not, most people. It's mainstream, or it's not, it was most people. It was the majority of people in the mainstream world seeing it play out in real time, watching it, watch that exchange, and people said, oh, my gosh. To the extent, can you remember the last time SNL got backlash for a skit?
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
They did a skit on it, and it fell through the floor. It bombed to the extent, by the way, that one of the actors dropped out of it right before airtime. Said, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, you're right. She was uncomfortable. She was supposed to do the part of Stefanik
and said, I'm not going to do it. And so that's how extreme it was.
Yep.
Because as we've mentioned, as a society, we don't accept that. The difference is your exposure to it. And a lot of people will, put blinders on for different reasons. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to, go down rabbit holes. And I get it. We do it for a living. And I get why people don't want to do that every day. They got a life. They got things that they actually have a life. They have things in their life that take them away from doing something like that. And they just don't want to go down the rabbit hole for whatever reason. And so it's been kind of abstract, the conversation about liberal extremists on these campuses. And now they saw it play out. I said from the beginning, after October 7th, radicals, and then there's everybody else. There are the radicals, and then there's everybody else. And we're seeing that play out fully day by day, and it's not over.
And people are understanding the bigotry, the racism, the Nazism, the femophobia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
The misogyny.
Right.
That's actually being taught on college campuses. You think about the liberal, insane transgender activist movement in this country, and the fact that, what's the problem? 'Cause remember the argument was abstract? What's the problem? Why can't people believe that whatever they wish to be? You go, that's not the problem. You can do whatever you want as an adult. We could care less.
Mm-hmm.
You don't allow kids to mutilate themselves.
Right.
You don't allow them to do that. Sorry, that's wrong. That's immoral. Well, that's not really happening. Now we find out that it's happening.
Yeah.
Men shouldn't compete against women. Well, and then because now the fight is happening, and by the way, there's a great article here. I just happened to see this in National Review. DEI's year in retreat. The battle against DEI has not been won, but it's been joined. For the first time in a long time, its advocates are on the back foot. Wow. Across the board, the fight has been brought. And we may sound passionate about it, but there have been times in the last couple of years where Eric and I have felt like, Are we the only ones?
Right. No, seriously,
We
we
weren't
felt
gonna-
that way for a while.
Yeah, we weren't going to stop doing what we did. We would never stop doing what we did, but at times it would get so quiet. We weren't attacked. It just was quiet. It was like, well, this is really, really strange. And then we would even look at the conservative media and say they're not really explaining it the way we believe they should. And the Republican Party isn't attacking it the way that they should. Well, we're still not happy with the Republicans, but there are many people out there, for example, you see somebody like Riley Gaines. What guts did it take? You had these misogynist bullies threatening young women swimmers.
Yeah.
We will destroy your life. And then what does it bring out? The witness that testified, just popped into my head a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in front of the House, who said, come on, women need to just get used to losing. You're going to lose in life, so you might as well lose to a man. That was the message.
Right.
Well, you're bringing that kind of thought out, and people hear that and go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And so these are some of the positives when we look at it. You have to look at it because you can get in, and I know because we hear from our listeners who just say, is everything bad? And we have to say, no, everything isn't bad. There's still, this fight to have, and we're not going to give up on this. It's
Never.
like that
Never.
when the coward liberals, I'm going to leave this country.
Bye.
I'd never say that. I will fight for everything that I believe. I'm not ever leaving this country, ever. I was born here, and I owe it to every single person who sacrificed their time, their bodies, their lives, their mental health in order to give us the Constitution of the United States. And to hell if I'm going to be this wimpy person going, I don't like the fact that things aren't going my way and I'm going to leave the country. No
Yeah.
way.
Nope.
Not happening.
Nope.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I would say to everybody that take a couple of days just to relax and be with family and have fun. The fight continues, after vacation.
Well,
But-
get rested for 2024 because we're going to need everybody on board.
Yeah.
And all hands on deck. I much of the heavy lifting is being done, but you and I have seen that before. I don't think we've ever seen it to close to this level, but we don't assume that it's going to be a walk.
No.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, the world, the North Pole.
The universe.
We are Red Eye Radio. And I'm telling you, I think that people on social media are so sick of just the back and forth on the serious topics that they're going to imaginary topics. I think it was on, now, you and I both subscribe. There's only 2 publications I actually pay that I subscribe to. Mm-hmm. One is the Wall Street Journal for their editorial page. and which is actually a news page at times. They actually break news there. And National Review. And not that I always agree with the writers of National Review, but to me, overall, they are the best opinion conservative publication in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
And I say so. People may say, "Oh no, there are better ones that are more." I think for the average person to understand from people that speak and write, and make things that can be complicated concepts easy to understand, I think they do the best job at it.
Yeah, and I think they cover a wider range in terms of the issues, not a wider range of issues, but angles, and they've got really great analysis on it because of that, I think. On anything that hits, you're going to find some kind of response to it there at National Review.
So
my subscription renewal's coming up. I just got the email the other day.
So did I.
Yeah.
January?
I think mine is, it might be January.
Mine is January. And
either that or it just hit. Yeah. So, yeah.
And sometimes, by the way, I want to make this perfectly clear.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Tucker Carlson say the other day that if Trump chooses Nikki Haley, he will not vote for Trump. Well, let me make my announcement. If Trump picks Tucker Carlson to be his vice president, I'm not voting for Trump.
Let me just make it clear. If it's Trump against Biden, I'm voting for Trump.
And he brings up the weird thing that Tucker Carlson said the other day that we covered already about the UFOs. It's just bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and Jim Garrity writes this, and it's pretty comical. That's why I said the second comment from Carlson that caught my eye came in the same interview when he declared that he believes that what people believe are UFO and alien sightings are actually signs we're being invaded by a malevolent spiritual force, and there is good reason to believe that the U.S. government is actually working in partnership with them. He writes, "It's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, they're not aliens. They've always been here, and I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. And again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence." Makes no sense. If the U.S. government has, in fact, had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people. It's a very, very heavy thing. And then Garrity writes, "I'm not going to tell you what to believe spiritually." A bit later in the interview, Carlson says that evil exists, and I agree with that. And I doubt anyone would dispute that. It manifests itself in human actions in many ways. After the year we've had, while watching footage of the Hamas massacres, the landlord who murdered that 6-year-old child, the sudden brutality that killed a man just for attending a demonstration, and goes through a bunch more. He goes, "Evil's had a great year in 2023. But I think if you're going to publicly make the argument that the United States government has entered into an agreement with evil demons, you really ought to bring some serious evidence to the table. Is that too much to ask? The bigger and more consequential the accusation, the more important it is to have proof and verification." I can hear it now. "But, Jim, look at the evidence. In fact, I'm sure there's someone out there right now who's insisting that the fact that I'm skeptical that the U.S. government is secretly in an alliance with dark spiritual forces is a sign that I, too, am in alliance with the dark spiritual forces." That's really a harsh way of characterizing my loyalty to an institution that generates nothing but despair and misery, known as the New York Jets.
I love it.
Oh, my, oh, my, oh, my.
That's great.
He goes, but if you're looking for a silver lining in Carlson's assertion It's that based on our track record with the South Vietnamese, the Kurds, and our Afghan allies, at some point the U.S. government will turn its back on the forces of hell and abandon them when hell needs us most.
That's funny.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
If you run around speaking on podcasts and at conferences contending that the problems in our country and our society are the result of government officials conspiring with dark, sinister, non-human forces, isn't at least possible, if not likely, that it will convince people that they ought to do something about a terrible conspiracy. This is X-Files stuff, contending that the fate of the planet and humanity are at stake. Wow.
Yeah.
This is where we said earlier this week, what the hell's happened to Tucker Carlson?
Yeah,
That's loony stuff, folks. And like I said, he also mentions, too, he also mentions, the same thing that we said about Tucker Carlson. Why in the hell are any Trump fans of Tucker Carlson? How did that happen?
Right.
Did they just ignore the emails that he put out? And
Is that the first time there's been an all is forgiven on any clash that has happened between a person and Trump or Trump and another person? I don't remember there being a situation where all is forgiven. And maybe there are numerous incidents of that happening. I just don't recall on such a big level.
Because, yes, I recall that back in early January of 21, this is Jim Garrity writing it, Carlson once texted, "I hate him passionately," referring to Trump. That apparently is water under the bridge. And then he said he went nuts about his last 4 years, and it was completely ignored by Trump. So many Trump supporters, we love Tucker Carlson. He's such a great supporter of Trump. At times.
Yeah, which day?
Which day? And we've said this a bunch of different times. Carlson was saying one thing on the air about the election and calling Trump a nutcase behind the scenes. And it all came out. It was all public. And you're like, where's the backlash? There was never a backlash.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't care what he says. It's Tucker's identity that we cherish.
Right.
And now the evil demons thing, folks, he's a nutcase. Sorry, that's nutcase stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say it unless you have the evidence. And it's got to be damn good evidence, and he doesn't have anything.
And you also don't say it, especially something like that, unless you mean it.
Oh, yeah.
You believe it.
What a nut. I'm sorry.
We can have a conversation about the evil in the world.
Yeah.
And we have. Individuals who are evil. We've talked about it a lot. But seriously, my question would be, who are you appealing to?
I don't know. That's a great point. Maybe he's not any. Maybe that's just the way he's into conspiracy theory. You look at what's his name? I can't think of his name. The guy from Texas.
Alex Jones?
Yeah, Alex Jones. Mm-hmm. He made millions off of conspiracy theories.
Oh, sure.
And just making stuff up.
Right.
He made millions. There's a big business. There's a huge audience. Look, I've been in this business now. The radio business and the news business for over 40 years. Talk radio this is my 35th year in it, and and knowing the formats of talk radio, conspiracy theories, UFOs, things like that have been extremely profitable. There is an audience, and what I find out is that people who subscribe to those things will tell you with arrogance, I know what's really going on and you don't. There's a certain arrogance in conspiracy theory ignorance.
And a significant portion of the audience is, I'm here for the entertainment of it all. I'm here for the train wreck effect. Because it's so bizarre, I want to hear just how bizarre they're going to go.
Well, just this conversation we're having, I guarantee we'll get emails going, Tucker Carlson's right, you guys are wrong. It's like, it doesn't matter what he says. It's like the loyalty is there for things. Sure. Oh, and you really don't know what's going on, and he does.
Right.
It's like, based on what evidence? They don't need evidence. To me, if we've talked about political idolatry, it's media personality idolatry.
Yeah.
Because he said something I like, then I will agree with everything and give him the benefit of the doubt. We're completely the opposite when it comes to everybody. We can agree with you. I can vote for you and criticize you a day later and say you're full of it. Because that's the real world.
Yeah.
The real world is not, I'm voting for this person, and this person's right and never does anything wrong. And if you criticize them in any way, well, then you're the evil, malevolent force.
Well, I'm hiring a public servant when I vote for them.
Yeah.
I need them to stay focused and on the job that I sent them there to do. So if they do something that I don't agree with, they're going to hear about it. I'm going to complain about it. I know Chuck Schumer. I know Nancy. I know Joe Biden. I didn't vote for any of them. The ones I vote for, feet to fire.
No, you're right. And people have asked me at times, sometimes you seem to be harder on the people you vote for. I go, because there's a certain expectation I have.
Point.
They've told me that they believe the way that I do, and they're showing me, in this case, they don't.
Look,
so I have questions.
If I'm trying to teach my kids, I can talk to them, and I'm not going to talk to somebody else's kids the way I talk to my kids. If I want my kids to understand something, then we're going to have a very serious and blunt discussion. But somebody else's kids, I'm not going to walk up to them. Now, I know some parents at ball games might do that. I would never do that. That's the role of their parents. Well, I send them there. I didn't vote for the other people. I can still issue my complaints, but it's really the basis of why I don't vote for them and why I believe others shouldn't vote for them. When it comes to the people that I vote for, the ones that win, you go into office, now it's time to go to work. You won the pageant, now it's time to prove it. Feet to fire. That's the way I'll always be. I'm not going to be, I didn't vote for them because I think they're cool. Man, I have their poster. No, it doesn't work that way.
Or I'd be the ultimate. He's bringing up stuff that we never had before. He's giving us hope and change.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember the idiots that fell for that?
The poster.
All I remember was in Grand Park in Chicago. And I had people that I know in the media. Yeah. Oh, we're going. The world has changed. No, it hasn't. You're an idiot.
No, it hasn't. Nothing has changed except you decided to put on blinders. Yeah. Some of the people that we know.
Yep. Put on blinders. It was imagery. It was idolatry based on a slogan that meant nothing.
Right. Because it's not about skin color with me. It's about the behavior. It's about the individual. It's about the content of their character.
For me, it's eye color.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess then supporting David Bowie was probably a little hard. You didn't know. Yeah, didn't know which way to go.
Or the guy that gave Wayne and Garth a permit in Wayne's World 2.
I mean, that's how it is. There's nothing wrong with fully supporting a candidate. Idolatry, to me, I don't get it.
Nah, it's stupid. It's stupid, it's counterproductive, and it's childish. We're adults.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, I'm feeling good, though. I'm feeling really good.
All right.
You know, because it will be, we're Friday here. I don't travel till tomorrow night, Saturday night.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I have a 7 o'clock flight out
Good.
of Dallas. And I was feeling bad about it until I saw the headline, Buttigieg offers tips on flight delays and cancellations during holiday travel.
I'm sorry, does he mean traveling by bicycle or plane?
Plane.
Okay.
Well, it looks like the weather's not going to be really a problem in most of the country.
Right.
Most of the major flying, routes.
So. Yeah, so he's going to be a hero on something that isn't going to happen. Because last season it was hectic.
Oh, it was nice. Yeah, but weather.
And Buttigieg couldn't have done anything about it.
I've been flying consistently. I mean, I started flying in the 70s, but I started flying the vast majority of my miles I put on since 1998.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this thing about the nightmare of air travel, it'll happen in winter, and you've got to pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times that I've said, I'm not taking that flight. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go do this like a day before. You got to pay attention to where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
But if you really pay attention, only once have I ever had to stay overnight, and that was thunderstorms going into Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I had problems getting in until the next day.
Chicago's the only place I've had a problem. We had to get off the plane, and we were close enough to drive. It was about a 3.5-hour drive the rest of the trip. But, I mean, in all the years I've traveled, very few problems.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want. You know, I went off track.
Yeah?
I interrupted myself.
How dare you?
Well, when I was talking about, because I mentioned National Review, and I ended up, all of a sudden it popped in my head, the Jim Garrity column about Tucker Carlson. And that's what, and I decided to go there because it was funny, and I was going to do it anyway, but then I forgot to go back to what I originally wanted to talk about, and that was people now, for some reason, want to argue about everything. And sometimes it's joking, and then people get serious. And there was on the blog of National Review, if you subscribe to them, you get on a special Facebook page.
Yeah,
They were debating the morality of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and how Santa treated them, and then just it got into the minutia of it. It was hilarious. And then some people would get serious, and someone would say, We're just having fun here. This is sarcasm.
Right.
It's like people getting angry. It's like, oh, my God. Oh, and the same thing. I saw some, I just did it about 2 weeks ago, and this is on Facebook. And that's because, well, Emil, who's the Seinfeld expert, used to be a producer for my show, my local show.
Mm-hmm.
And now he works National Public Radio in Seattle, I believe. Emil works,
Right.
and he's a Seinfeld expert. I mean,
no doubt.
And we go back and forth. And another friend of mine, she's a Seinfeld expert, and somehow because of them, I ended up on I don't know whether the algorithm hit it, but all of a sudden the Seinfeld sites came up on my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined it. Oh my, what a mistake.
Ah.
Well, why would Jerry do this? Jerry, Jerry supposedly was this great comedian. I mean, how come he lived in such a, cheap apartment? And then the debates, what are you talking about? That's a $4,000 apartment now. And, Jerry wasn't that popular. Well, he was enough to buy his dad a Cadillac. And Elaine thought he was rich. And then all of a sudden you'll see they're going back and forth. And then people get angry at each other. And then somebody will put in there, it's a fictional TV show. And I'm like, wow, these people are actually investing all this time and energy. And then I'm thinking, and so am I reading all these comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, have we become a society that just wants to turn everything off, but we wish to argue about things that are fictional?
I think. And get serious. That's where we have serious opinions. Oh, come on. Yeah. It's one thing to throw the idea around, again, tongue in cheek. Just, okay. Alien life form from other planets. If they're out there, are they conservative or liberal?
Yeah, and that came from us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things. But getting into the serious and just, sorry. That's, no.
I did that way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
When the X-Files came on.
Yeah.
I did that one day. It was actually a fun show. Because I did it just, that came into my mind with the X-Files. I said, hey, everybody's talking about the aliens here. If they do exist, are they Democrat or Republican? Okay, forget about that. Forget about the party.
Yeah.
Are they conservative or liberal? Oh, man, it was just, I thought it was, I wasn't even going to take calls, and the phones lit up like crazy, and I spent like an hour and a half or 2 hours talking about whether the aliens were, but it was actually funny because people would come up with stuff and say, well, they would have to have some scientific ability, and so they have to be Republicans because Democrats don't pay attention to science. And then some Democrat would call, what do you mean? Republicans don't pay attention to science, so they'd have to be Democrats. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm out. I just don't have the will or the patience for any of that. It's so much more fun to take on the actual issues.
It really is. And I've gotten some really interesting feedback because when we talked, I believe it was last week, when we said we do realize that the life we live is sort of the opposite, to do a Seinfeld episode again, the opposite of everybody else. Because so many people want to run away from the fire. Yeah, and they don't wish to discuss or talk politics or talk the things that we talk.
Right. Right, exactly.
And it's our absolute passion. That's people go, I need to, and I know it came from that, comic that I saw, which was the guy paying attention to the news going, I got to escape from this. I got to escape. I got to escape. And then it showed him turning on a Buffalo Bills game. It's like, I got to escape. I got to escape.
Right.
And then it showed him turning on a Buffalo Sabres game. I got to escape. I got to escape. And then he's reading a book and the TV is off. And that's when I thought to myself, I went, wow, we're the opposite. My sports teams, and those are my sports teams, have stunk for so long that My relief and my contentment and my calmness and my excitement comes from running right into the fire of all the political arguments of the day. And I don't know if I could live without them. It's almost my drug.
I'm very concerned about the Christmas break.
Whether we'll survive.
I'm very concerned about it.
Hey, we're not giving it up.
Well, because here are the things. No. I mean, we're going on Christmas break.
Yes.
We do have to rest up for 24. So there's number one. There's solution number one. Get a little more sleep. Then there's, suggestions. Well, find some other things to do. No. You might find that you like other things. I don't want to like other things. So I'm like, it'll be fine. I'm just going to be talking out loud to myself a lot. As I'm, I don't know, wherever I am, news alert hits. All right, here we go.
And when we get back, the morning of January 3rd at 6 minutes past January 2nd, what's the first thing I'm going to say? I don't know where to start.
No.
Because there's so many stories that will have accumulated over those 11, 12 days. It's like,
yeah.
The only good thing is Karine Jean-Pierre and Kirby, they're done. They're done for the year.
Yeah, and
everything's shut down.
So it really there and that's the great thing about this particular break is that even in the newsrooms, there fewer people are working this time of year. It's just a slow part of the year, and so that will help. I'm going to get some things in my personal life. Doesn't mean I'm going to like it. What's this whole Christmas thing? Okay, fine. No, it's look.
I'm going to have to deal with family, I guess. So I can't wait. So much looking forward to being with my family.
Yeah, and it's highly overrated. Highly overrated.
By the way, we're kidding, just so people know.
Well, one of us is.
Yes.
And so we do want to thank Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis. Thank you so much. Both of those guys will be filling in at some point during our break, so thank you. And also, Chris Kroc will be here the night of the 1st, the morning of the 2nd. And then the following night, we're back the morning of January 3rd. It sounds so far away. And, one of the things, too, I actually will be working because as I go through and organize all my stuff in my home office, in my mind, I'm going to be thinking about 24. There's no way I won't be looking at, like, during the breaks during the show this morning, looking at the Senate races for 24, looking at things like the fact that Governor DeSantis is going to term out as governor in Florida and can't run again. That would be in 26. He can't run again. So if he's not the nominee in 24, politically, where would he go? What would he do? Does he want to run for Senate in Florida after being governor? Those kind of things. If he's thinking about running again, if he's not the nominee in 24 and he wants to come back in 28, all these things in my mind, I'm just curious about them, looking at the dynamics in play and what might affect 24 and beyond. And to me, it's always fascinating. That's the great thing, is that whether I'm doing it at home, doing it for work, during a vacation, whatever, I love doing it.
Me too, because there's some things I read this headline here, and I wonder who they're, what he's talking about. New York City Mayor Eric Adams blames rats as a big reason for New Yorkers fleeing the state in droves. Is he talking about Kathy Hochul and Alvin Bragg there? and so those kind of questions I need to be answered.
Yeah. Or people who snitch. Is he talking about those kind of rats?
See
I mean,
that?
when you say it in New York, you got to ask the question, what kind of rat are you talking about?
I'm really, I'm getting to be like you now. Now that, we will be going on, holiday.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be going on Christmas and New Year's break. I got permission from the school board of South Lake, Texas, to say that. I'm like you. I know my mind's going to be working like crazy and reading like crazy because for the first couple of days, especially when I visit my dad, I will during Christmas. I will get away from it a little bit.
Well, and
I will
the good thing is that
nothing will be happening. But once I get back home and still have a week, my mind's going to be going nuts trying to.
And the good thing is that Christmas, falls on a Monday, so it's like a 3-day weekend, really, if you think about it. And a weekend, I naturally, there are other things going on and all that, just like anybody else, just like regular people. And then Tuesday will be the day when, Tuesday or Wednesday, when I'm kind of just jumping headfirst back into things that just lead my curiosity, even if there's no news. That's actually better to kind of go down and go, okay, here are some fun facts, or not even fun facts, but interesting dynamics that might be in play in 24 and beyond. And I love doing that kind of research and that kind of, reading, because it is important. I don't just look at November 5th of next year. Yeah, that's the next big thing. But beyond that, if the GOP takes the White House, the Senate, and retains the House, okay, now it's time to get to work.
And what are they going to do?
What are they going to do?
That's still the big, when you look at, because we've talked a lot about fiscal policy, that's really the big question to me.
Yeah.
If the Republicans take the White House, the Senate, and the House, will they actually cut? Because if they cut, they may be toast in 2026.
And at the midterm, and I think you're absolutely right on it. This is what I've been saying.
By the way, they'd be doing the right thing.
Yeah, but
Americans will say, we want you to cut, and as soon as they cut, well, you're cutting my
it'd be
thing.
over.
Right.
Well, an example of that is 2016 GOP, we're going to do away with Obamacare. 2017 GOP, after they won, well, we can't do away with the benefits, only how you pay for it, only the bad parts. And so, that's exactly where we are politically as a nation. And I don't think they're going to be able to turn that around. That's why I think many Democrats look at it and go, look, let them win. Let them take over Joe's mess, and they'll tank it, and we'll come back in 28. Because they'll want to do the right thing if they want to do the right thing, but the right thing to us is not the right thing to most Americans.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's just funny because where we read the headline of that article before. Buttigieg offers tips on flight delays and cancellations during holiday travel. And whenever I see this topic come up, and you go on social media and people complain with all their nightmares, but in all my time flying, I have, and it's easier today now that they seem to cancel flights earlier.
Yeah, right.
Is my experience, and they did, even 10, 15 years ago, and it's all in your app. You don't need to go. You don't need to go sit in line. If you're part of their app, it'll sit there and say your flight's canceled. And it's like, okay, here's the flight we have you on. Here's all the other choices.
Right.
You can do it yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, there can be nightmares, but I find less of it as technology gets better.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.